Have you ever experienced a moment where you felt God's hand move powerfully in your life? A moment so extraordinary, so undeniable, that you knew it was His blessing pouring out over you. But here's the thing, what happens next? How do we honor and protect those blessings without letting pride, noise, or outside opinions interfere with God's perfect plan? Today, I want to invite you on a journey into understanding why sometimes when God blesses you, the wisest thing you can do is keep your mouth shut. This isn't about fear or hiding. It's about wisdom, humility, and reverence. It's about understanding that God's blessings come with responsibilities, and that silence can be an act of faith, allowing His work to unfold in its fullness. So, as we dive into this message, I encourage you to listen with an open heart. This is a call to trust Him more deeply, to steward His gifts wisely, and to let your life speak louder than your words ever could. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear could transform the way you approach God's blessings forever. Let's step into this sacred moment together. God's blessings are sacred and personal, a profound truth that calls us to honor them with the reverence they deserve. These blessings are not arbitrary or impersonal. They are woven into the unique fabric of our lives, designed with precision by the Creator to meet our needs and align us with His divine plan. Each blessing carries a purpose, a lesson, and an opportunity for growth. When God bestows His goodness upon us, it is not merely for our pleasure or comfort, but to remind us of His love and deepen our relationship with Him. These gifts are invitations to draw closer to Him, to trust His timing, and to rely on His wisdom. The personal nature of God's blessings means that they are tailored for us in ways that others may not fully comprehend. What He chooses to do in your life might not resonate with someone else, as they have their own journey and divine appointments. This individuality makes the blessings sacred and worth guarding. When we speak of them prematurely or share them without discernment, we risk exposing what is holy to scrutiny, doubt, or even disdain from those who might not see their true value. Just as we treasure precious things in life, we must handle God's blessings with care, keeping them close to our hearts and sharing them only when led by His Spirit. The sacredness of these blessings is tied to their transformative power. They are not static gifts, but dynamic acts of grace meant to shape us into the likeness of Christ. The financial provision might teach us gratitude and stewardship. A miraculous healing might deepen our faith and humility. Each blessing is an encounter with the divine, a moment where heaven touches earth, and it is essential to let that moment do its full work in our souls before making it a topic of public conversation. Rushing to share can sometimes disrupt the process of growth and understanding that God intends for us through the blessing. In our eagerness to share good news, we may unintentionally invite distractions or complications that take the focus away from God. Sharing too soon can lead others to question, criticize, or misunderstand what God is doing in our lives. This is particularly true in a world where many are quick to judge without understanding the depth of a situation. Keeping our blessings private allows us to cherish them without interference, to meditate on their significance, and to respond to them in a way that aligns with God's purpose. There is a deeper spiritual dimension to keeping our blessings personal. When we honor the sacredness of what God gives us, we cultivate an attitude of worship and gratitude that draws us closer to Him. It becomes less about the gift itself and more about the giver, who knows us better than we know ourselves. This intimacy with God is one of the greatest blessings we can experience, and preserving it requires discernment in how we handle the tangible and intangible gifts He provides. God's blessings are also meant to prepare us for greater responsibilities and opportunities. They often come with challenges or lessons that require time to process. By keeping them private, we allow God to work in us, fully equipping us for the tasks ahead. Sharing too soon might lead to distractions or missteps that could hinder our growth or delay His plans. In moments of quiet reflection and gratitude, we find the strength and wisdom to carry out His will effectively, ensuring that the blessings we receive become blessings for others in due time. The sacred and personal nature of God's blessings reminds us to trust in His guidance and to honor His timing. There is a beauty in holding close what He has given, letting it deepen our faith and refine our character. Only when the time is right, and only under His leading, should we share these blessings as testimonies of His goodness, ensuring they glorify Him and inspire others to seek Him. In this way, the blessings remain sacred, fulfilling their divine purpose and strengthening our relationship with the One who gives them. When God blesses us, it is not merely an act of divine generosity, but an invitation to align with His wisdom and timing. Recognizing the importance of discretion is a vital part of stewarding the gifts He entrusts to us. Blessings are often accompanied by spiritual and practical responsibilities, and the way we handle them can influence their impact not only on our lives but also on the lives of those around us. In the eagerness to share good news, it is easy to overlook the significance of timing. Speaking too soon about what God is doing in our lives can lead to unintended consequences that may derail the very purpose of the blessing itself. Timing is a divine element of God's plan, and His ways are often beyond human comprehension. In the moments when we receive a blessing, there is often a period of preparation or refinement that follows. This period is sacred because it allows us to process the gift, understand its purpose, and seek God's guidance on how to use it wisely. Rushing to announce what God has done can interrupt this process, leaving us unprepared for the responsibilities or challenges that might come with the blessing. Silence during this time is not a denial of gratitude, but a demonstration of trust in God's unfolding plan. The spiritual maturity to exercise discretion reflects an understanding of the weight of God's blessings. Not every person in our lives will understand, celebrate, or even accept the blessings we receive. Sharing prematurely can invite unnecessary scrutiny, doubt, or even jealousy, which can create emotional and spiritual turbulence. It is important to remember that God's blessings are not always meant to be broadcast. They are deeply personal and are often a part of His intimate conversation with us. Speaking before the right time can open the door to confusion, discouragement, or opposition from those who do not see the full picture of what God is doing. Discretion also guards the sanctity of the testimony that may come from the blessing. When God works in our lives, He often weaves together a story of His faithfulness, power, and love. Each piece of that story is crucial, and it takes time for the narrative to unfold in a way that glorifies Him fully. Sharing too soon can obscure the testimony, focusing attention on the blessing itself rather than the God who gave it. Waiting for God's timing ensures that the testimony is complete, allowing it to serve as a powerful witness to His goodness and sovereignty. Silence in the wake of a blessing is an opportunity to draw nearer to God in humility and gratitude. It is a chance to sit quietly in His presence, thanking Him for His provision and seeking His wisdom for what lies ahead. This posture of humility allows us to remain focused on the giver rather than the gift, fostering a deeper relationship with Him. In the quiet, we can hear His voice more clearly, guiding us on how to navigate the next steps in alignment with His will. The wisdom of keeping silent is also a safeguard against the spiritual attacks that can arise when blessings are prematurely shared. The enemy often uses moments of vulnerability to sow doubt, fear, or conflict. By exercising discretion, we close the door to such attacks, protecting the sanctity of the blessing and allowing it to take root in our lives. This silence is not about secrecy or fear, but about creating a space where the blessing can mature and bear fruit under God's protection. Discretion in the face of blessing requires discipline and faith. It is a reminder that our lives are not our own. They are intricately woven into God's grand design. Trusting Him to reveal the blessing at the right time demonstrates our dependence on His wisdom and our commitment to His purpose. When we resist the urge to share prematurely, we honor the sacredness of the moment and create an environment where the blessing can grow and multiply according to God's will. By waiting for His timing, we ensure that the blessing not only enriches our lives, but also serves as a beacon of His glory to the world around us. The principle of humility is essential when God blesses us, serving as a foundation for how we handle His gifts. Humility reminds us that blessings are not rewards for our own merit, but unmerited favors from a gracious God. This understanding shifts our focus from self-exaltation to a posture of gratitude and service. When we receive blessings with humility, we recognize that we are not the ultimate source of our achievements or prosperity. Instead, we are stewards entrusted with resources meant to glorify God and bless others. Humility begins with acknowledging that every good and perfect gift comes from God. This acknowledgement prevents the subtle rise of pride that can accompany success or abundance. Without humility, it is easy to fall into the trap of believing that we are entitled to blessings because of our hard work, intelligence, or character. However, Scripture continually teaches us that God's blessings are acts of grace, not rewards for our righteousness. This realization humbles us, allowing us to approach life with a sense of wonder and deep gratitude. When we maintain a humble heart, we become more attuned to the true purpose of God's blessings. They are not given for our personal comfort or self-promotion, but for the advancement of His kingdom. Humility enables us to see beyond our immediate circumstances, helping us understand how our blessings fit into God's larger plan. This perspective shifts our focus outward, encouraging us to use what we have been given to serve others and reflect God's love. A humble heart sees blessings not as possessions to be hoarded, but as tools to bring light and hope to a broken world. Humility guards us against the pitfalls of comparison and envy. In a world that often measures success by visible achievements, it is tempting to compare our blessings to those of others. Humility reminds us that God's plans for each of us are unique and His timing is perfect. This understanding frees us from the burden of competition, allowing us to celebrate the successes of others without resentment or insecurity. A humble heart finds contentment in God's provision, trusting that His gifts are precisely what we need to fulfill our purpose. Humility also prepares us to handle opposition or criticism that may arise when others observe our blessings. Not everyone will understand or support the work God is doing in our lives. Some may question our motives, challenge our decisions, or harbor resentment. A humble heart responds to such challenges with grace, choosing to trust in God's approval rather than seeking validation from others. By remaining humble, we avoid becoming defensive or boastful, allowing God's peace to guard our hearts and minds. Humility deepens our dependence on God, especially as we navigate the responsibilities that come with blessings. Every blessing carries a weight of accountability, and without God's guidance, we risk misusing or squandering what He has given us. Humility keeps us grounded, reminding us to seek His wisdom and strength in all things. It is through this dependence that we find the courage and clarity to steward our blessings faithfully, ensuring that they bring glory to Him and not to ourselves. Humility also fosters a spirit of gratitude that transforms how we view life's challenges. While blessings are moments of joy, they are often accompanied by trials or responsibilities that stretch our faith. A humble heart sees these moments as opportunities to grow closer to God and to learn from His ways. Gratitude rooted in humility enables us to face difficulties with resilience, knowing that God's grace is sufficient for every circumstance. This perspective allows us to embrace both the blessings and the trials as part of His perfect plan for our lives. Humility is a testimony to the transformative power of God's grace. When we receive blessings with humility, we reflect His character to those around us. Our lives become living examples of His mercy, love, and faithfulness, drawing others to Him. In this way, humility not only protects our hearts, but also amplifies the impact of His blessings, ensuring that they serve their divine purpose. By walking humbly with God, we honor Him as the true source of all goodness and align ourselves with His eternal purposes. Remaining silent about the blessings God has given you is not an act of secrecy, but an act of wisdom and discernment. In a world filled with noise, sharing every detail of one's life can often lead to misunderstandings, envy, or unnecessary complications. Silence, when led by the Spirit, protects the sacred nature of what God is doing in your life. It allows you to treasure the blessings privately and avoid exposing them to scrutiny or attack before their time. God's timing is perfect, and so is His direction on when to share your blessings and with whom. The Bible teaches us that there is a time to speak and a time to remain silent. When God blesses you, especially in ways that are deeply personal or transformative, sharing prematurely can sometimes hinder the full unfolding of His plan. Not everyone is prepared to celebrate with you, and some may not understand the work God is accomplishing in your life. By remaining silent, you give yourself the opportunity to fully comprehend and appreciate the blessing before attempting to explain it to others. Silence also safeguards your blessing from becoming a source of pride or self-exaltation. When you speak too freely about the gifts God has given you, there is a subtle temptation to make them about yourself rather than about Him. Words have power, and when used unwisely, they can distort the focus from God's grace to human achievement. Keeping quiet allows your heart to stay humble and aligned with the true purpose of the blessing, which is to glorify God. It also ensures that you remain in a posture of gratitude, recognizing that the blessing is not something you earned but something God chose to bestow upon you. In moments of silence, you also create space to hear God's voice more clearly. When you are constantly speaking or sharing, it can be difficult to discern the next steps He is calling you to take. Silence enables you to remain attentive to His leading and sensitive to His will. It is in these quiet moments that God often reveals the deeper purposes of the blessings He has given you. By not rushing to speak, you leave room for His guidance and wisdom to shape your understanding of what He is doing in your life. Another reason to keep quiet is that not everyone around you is spiritually aligned or supportive of God's work in your life. Some individuals may respond to your blessings with envy, skepticism, or even malice. Their reactions, whether intentional or not, can create spiritual or emotional obstacles for you. By remaining silent, you shield yourself from unnecessary negativity and protect the sanctity of what God is accomplishing. Silence becomes a form of spiritual armor, preserving your focus and peace. Silence also demonstrates trust in God. When you choose not to broadcast your blessings, you are expressing faith that God's work does not require public validation. You are acknowledging that His favor is sufficient and that His approval is all you need. This trust strengthens your relationship with Him and deepens your reliance on His wisdom rather than the opinions of others. It reminds you that your identity and worth are rooted in Him, not in the recognition or applause of people. Silence provides an opportunity for God to work through your actions rather than your words. The way you live out your blessings can often speak louder and more profoundly than any explanation you could give. By focusing on obedience and faithfulness, you allow the fruits of God's work in your life to be evident without the need for elaboration. This silent testimony can inspire and encourage others in ways that words cannot. Silence is a form of stewardship. It is a way of honoring the gifts God has given you by handling them with care and discretion. It reflects a heart that values God's blessings and seeks to use them according to His purposes rather than for personal gain or recognition. Silence invites God to continue working in and through you, ensuring that His plans are fulfilled in His perfect way and time. By keeping quiet, you allow the blessing to grow and mature under His hand, becoming all that He intended it to be. Remaining silent about God's blessings cultivates a deeper intimacy between you and Him, creating a sacred space where the exchange of grace is personal and profound. This sacred silence is not about secrecy for its own sake, but about preserving the purity of the blessing in a world that often trivializes or distorts what is holy. When God entrusts you with His gifts, whether they are spiritual revelations, personal breakthroughs, or material provisions, there is an invitation to treasure them in your heart before sharing them openly. This act of restraint is not withholding, it is nurturing, allowing the blessing to take root and flourish in the soil of gratitude and faith. One of the most significant aspects of keeping quiet about your blessings is the spiritual discipline it fosters. It teaches reliance on God's affirmation rather than human validation. In a culture that encourages broadcasting every success and sharing every milestone, the act of holding something close can feel counterintuitive. Yet it is in this very act of quietude that you strengthen your connection with the giver rather than the gift. You learn to lean into His presence, seeking His guidance and approval above all else. This deepens your relationship with God, aligning your heart with His purposes and keeping you grounded in humility. Silence also creates a shield around your blessings, protecting them from the scrutiny, opinions, and doubts of others. Not everyone will understand the significance of what God has done in your life, and some may even project their insecurities or skepticism onto your experience. By choosing not to share prematurely, you guard your blessing from becoming a source of contention or misunderstanding. This is not about fear or mistrust, but about wisdom and discernment. It is about recognizing that some aspects of God's work in your life are meant to unfold in private before being revealed to others. This patience allows the full beauty of the blessing to emerge untainted by external interference. Keeping quiet teaches you to rest in God's timing. Every blessing comes with a purpose and a season, and rushing to share can sometimes disrupt the flow of His divine plan. There is a profound peace that comes from trusting that God will reveal what needs to be revealed when the time is right. This trust is an act of surrender, a declaration that His ways are higher than yours and that His timing is perfect. In this way, silence becomes an act of worship, a way of saying, "Lord, I trust You to lead me in how to steward this blessing." Silence also preserves the joy and wonder of the blessing. When you share too quickly, you risk diluting the sacredness of the moment by subjecting it to the reactions and interpretations of others. Keeping quiet allows you to fully savor the experience, to marvel at God's goodness without distraction. This private celebration strengthens your faith, reminding you of His faithfulness and deepening your gratitude. It becomes a moment of communion between you and God, unspoiled by the noise of the world. Silence allows God to use your life as a quiet testimony. Sometimes the most powerful witness is not in the words you speak, but in the way you live. When you carry your blessings with grace and humility, when your life reflects the peace and joy that come from walking with God, others will notice. They will see the evidence of His work in your life without you needing to explain or justify it. This silent witness can inspire others to seek God for themselves, drawn not by your words but by the fruit of His Spirit in your life. Silence cultivates a heart of gratitude and stewardship. By not rushing to share, you take the time to reflect on the significance of the blessing and to seek God's direction on how best to use it for His glory. This reflection helps you to recognize the true value of what you have received and to approach it with a sense of responsibility and reverence. It keeps you focused on the source of the blessing, ensuring that your heart remains anchored in Him rather than in the gift itself. In this way, silence becomes a form of worship, a way of honoring God for His goodness and acknowledging that all you have comes from Him. Remaining quiet about God's blessings often aligns us with the principle of humility, which serves as the cornerstone of true spiritual growth. When we refrain from announcing our blessings to the world, we are reminded of their source, redirecting our hearts from self-centered pride to God-centered gratitude. This discipline keeps us grounded, ensuring that we do not elevate ourselves above others but instead remain vessels of God's grace. The act of not boasting or publicly proclaiming every victory or provision fosters an inner humility that allows us to view ourselves as stewards rather than owners of what we have received. It shapes our character, refining our hearts to reflect Christ's meekness, and opens our eyes to the profound truth that our blessings are not just for our benefit but for God's glory. Silence about blessings is also a profound expression of trust in God's sovereignty. By choosing not to speak prematurely, we demonstrate confidence that God will reveal what needs to be known at the right time and to the right people. This requires surrendering our desire for immediate validation or recognition, which can often be a subtle form of seeking control. Instead, we place our faith in God's ability to orchestrate the details of our lives perfectly. In doing so, we declare that our trust lies not in our ability to manage or broadcast our blessings, but in God's omniscient plan. This trust allows us to rest in His peace, knowing that His purposes will always prevail, whether or not we share our blessings openly. Maintaining silence cultivates a spirit of discernment, enabling us to hear God's voice more clearly regarding how we should use our blessings. Often when we rush to share, we drown out the still small voice of God, which might be leading us to wait or redirect our attention. By holding back, we create space for God to speak, revealing His will and purpose for the blessing. This practice sharpens our spiritual sensitivity, helping us to distinguish between what is appropriate to share and what is better left between us and God. Through this discernment, we become more attuned to the Spirit's guidance, Learning to steward our blessings in ways that align with His divine will rather than our own impulsive desires. Remaining quiet can also serve as a form of protection, shielding our blessings from the spiritual warfare that often arises when others perceive or react to what God is doing in our lives. Not everyone will celebrate your blessings. Some may envy or criticize them, whether intentionally or unconsciously. Sharing prematurely can sometimes invite negativity, doubt, or even attempts to undermine what God is building. By choosing silence, we place a spiritual hedge around our blessings, allowing them to mature without interference. This protection ensures that God's work in our lives is not derailed or distorted by the reactions of others, but instead grows in strength and beauty under His care. Silence provides an opportunity for reflection, allowing us to fully grasp the magnitude of what God has done. When we resist the urge to speak immediately, we create a sacred pause in which to meditate on His goodness, faithfulness, and provision. This reflection deepens our gratitude and anchors our faith, reminding us of God's character and His unchanging love for us. It also gives us the chance to seek His wisdom on how to respond to the blessing, ensuring that our actions honor Him and reflect His heart. This period of contemplation transforms the blessing into a testimony, one that is rich with meaning and prepared to be shared in God's perfect timing. Remaining quiet about blessings ensures that our focus remains on God and not on ourselves. In a world that often equates worth with achievements or possessions, it is easy to fall into the trap of seeking affirmation from others. However, when we choose silence, we shift our gaze from human approval to divine relationship. This practice reminds us that our blessings are not evidence of our greatness but of God's grace. It keeps us humble, ensuring that our lives point to Him rather than to ourselves. This focus transforms us into living testimonies of God's goodness, inspiring others not through our words but through the quiet, radiant evidence of His work in our lives. In conclusion, God's blessings are sacred gifts, not merely for our enjoyment but for His glory. By learning to keep our mouths closed and our hearts open, we create space for humility, trust, and discernment to take root within us. We protect what God is nurturing in our lives from unnecessary interference and allow it to grow into its fullness under His care. Silence is not just an act of obedience, it's an act of faith, a testament to our trust in God's timing and His plan. As we reflect on the blessings He bestows, let us remember that they are not ours to boast about, but to steward with wisdom and gratitude. In doing so, we honor the giver more than the gift and ensure that every blessing in our lives becomes a testimony of His grace and goodness. May you walk forward with the assurance that God is with you, guiding your steps and protecting your blessings. Trust in His wisdom, lean into His strength, and let your life be a quiet but powerful reflection of His love. Thank you for taking the time to reflect on this message today. May God bless you abundantly and keep you under the shadow of His wings. Good luck on your journey of faith, and may you always find peace in His presence. Thank you, and God bless.